Hey guys, it's me, Liz. Um, it's been about maybe a few weeks to maybe like a month since I last posted my last video. Um, it's a pretty new channel. I'm still trying to get into the rhythm of things, but also I've been like really low on like paint supplies and stuff like that. So I've been kind of thinking of what else I can do to really jumpstart this channel. One of the ideas I actually mentioned that I was really interested in starting was something called Reading Time with Liz. Or, I don't know, I might come up with a different name for it. Maybe like Storytime with Liz or something like that. But basically, the format is I take a short story that either I've written or maybe one of y'all, if you guys want to submit something to me, I'll read it. The first chapter or so is really all I need, just like a little sample. And if I like it enough, I might consider reading it out here if y'all would like. I don't know if anyone's actually gonna submit or not, but it'd be a really cool thing to try to just like really read like people's work as well as my own and just see what comments, critiques, and other things we get out of it, just like out of practice, and to just be better writers and better creators. In regards to today's story, I really want to preface with a little summary of sorts. I haven't really written out an official summary for this story, but here it goes. So I'm calling it Safe House. Basically, it's going to be a story about this single young woman, alike to myself, and she's really struggling with identity and ways to find yourself. And it's something really reflective of my own life and how I view things personally, but I'm not really using that as a way to live out my experience. I'm really writing this story as a way to divulge in the fantasy side of it. So it's this young woman, and she's really gonna be getting interested in her dreams, and it's really gonna open this whole other world for her. And at some point, the main idea for me in the story is, where does fantasy, reality, metacognition, dreams, what does it all mean to the individual, but also like spiritually? And basically, where can I take it? How dark can it get? How real can it get? And how ambitious can I really get with this whole concept? So basically, that's where I am with this story, and I have about like 5 chapters, but today, and just with further formats of this story time with Liz, I really just want to focus one chapter at a time, read one chapter at a time with any story. And if it's a poem that any of y'all want to submit, I'll do like the whole poem, and stuff like that. We'll depend on the piece, but yeah, basically I'm just gonna start with the first chapter of the story. Y'all let me know if you like it. I'm open to comments, criticism, what have you, and I'm really just excited to share this with y'all. Safe House, Chapter 1. She glided her hands over the flat sequins of her dress, the reflective material hugging the smooth contours of her body. The light glinting off her form echoed from the light of the mirror before her. And eye to eye, she thought. No one else recognizes me like I do. And in sadness, I'm still that little girl inside. She was ready to put on the mask now, the one that showed normalcy and confident womanhood. It would always be covering her heart, where she still lived as a hopeless child with no place to call home. A quiet cry could always be seen behind her natural gaze of sunken eyes, but it would take a long time before anyone else would see it. She was ready to leave now, into the greater unknown, toward a moonlit lounge that awaited in the desert sands, held together with the slow-growing shrubs leading to forested valleys beyond. It was never the memories of people that comforted her. It was always the company of the earth around her, whispering with its winds in cicada songs and serenade. Tonight, however, The voices of nature were snuffed by the heavy drones of bass and DJ edits. Lucia followed closely behind her friends, entering into the club of noise and social clamor. She was the last to enter before them, but managed to hang onto their little path to the bar. Sipping her drink, Lucia watched as her club companions grouped with different men in the crowd, back to each other, then out again. She didn't know why she agreed to go, but as she grew older and further from her childhood, the more she needed to convince herself of her maturity. She still felt her young fragility on the inside. Shame is difficult. Shame was part of the burden of her character. Lucia knew she didn't belong there, but sometimes survival isn't about belonging. It's about blending into goodbye. She took another sip of her drink. Things like this were difficult to think about, so she went back to watching her friends dance, her friends smile. She smiled, too, when they looked over at her and waved. For a moment there, maybe she wasn't forgotten, but only a fool's comfort she knew. At the end of the night, following many drinks among the small brood of women containing Miss Lucia, tonight's social occasion was coming quietly to an end. The lounge was the local one, close enough to be a short drive and close enough for some to be a short walk. We followed the barren path of Miss Lucia alongside a short friend to match, Miss Abby. As rocks began to skip, the leaves being loudly brushed past, similar to a broom, it could be seen by Lucia and most of anyone else that Abby was drunk. It wasn't surprising, but it was a care to Lucy. Abby was only 5'2", very petite, and blonde to top it off. A prime victim, thought only a buzzed Lucy, and also worried the same for herself. Rather, I'm an average brunette, 5'6", easy collateral, extra body for trade. She could imagine her life ending there, being another tally in the marks before having the chance to make something of herself. She felt the same on most occasions, not wanting to be a tally, though all it would take is the right circumstances, the right place and time. Even maybe the random van down the sidewalk or alleyway may end up being the right one too. To take Abby away, Lucia or you. Lucia kept Abby close until the path opened up into the back entrance of a small rental property. A lack of fencing allowed some of the natural landscape, such as trees and wild bushes of flowers, to grow in the small yard only defined by the mowing of the dry, crispy grass. It scorches in the heat on a hot suburban plateau of a neighborhood, the hill country desert. Only an in-between when it came to the sparsely blanketed peaks and dense valleys. Hot was hot, and it didn't escape the night. The ground was still warm around them, irradiated subtly. Both young women made it across the small yard, across the sliding glass door. One with a sigh and the other finding the closest seat near their entryway in the kitchen, where a bar counter and sink met Abby in return. The third roommate showed no sign, as she was probably asleep in the late hour. It was a Wednesday, middle of the week after all. Abby looked up at Lucia and almost a glazed look from her eyes and said, "I saw you over at the bar all night. Care to explain?" She looked up at Lucia from lazy, purple-hooded eyes. Patronizing banter from a rather concerned and wasted roommate of choice. She understood the ask. "I guess I didn't feel like dancing tonight. Sometimes it's more fun to watch everyone else. You certainly had some moments." A sly smile complimented her point, leaving Abby to hang her head in admission. A drizzle of rain pattered against the windows in rhythmic gusts of wind. A summer rainstorm was starting. Abby looked back up at the start of the noise. "That's my cue. Good night, Lucy." It seemed like a proper surmise for Lucia as well, and so as they both retreated to their separate rooms, she thought to herself a review of the night. All of the little things she saw and noticed went flashing through her mind. The rhythmic consistency of the club's pounding bass with the hype of the crowd. The gazes across strangers that longed for lust and all that comes with it. Knowing and partaking anyway, it made no moral sense to her. All it spoke of was the desperation of their own loneliness and wants, but what did make sense to her was the emotional sacrifice that came with giving in. That's something she could never bring herself to be a part of, the giving in. She still understood the need to, though, give things a chance out of desperation and the need to live. Desperation was familiar. She also knew that being strong couldn't happen if she were entirely sheltered, so she wore her past in silence and reflection. Every scar was a lesson. In order to be strong, she had to move on with herself, and only herself at the end of the day. Alright guys, well, that was chapter 1 of Safe House. Y'all let me know how you like it, and just, any criticisms, any comments, like, subscribe. I could use all the company I can because, well, like I said, fresh new freaking channel. Let's go guys, let's do it. Subscribe.